Hello, my name is Mackenzie Carr, and today I'm going to be talking about representation in media in regards to the transgender community. What if you were raised with an older brother who was your best friend, knight in shining armor, first love, who out of nowhere came out to be transgender? Well, that actually happened to me just a couple months ago. That also happened to Kylie and Kendall Jenner, except with their father. In this slideshow, I'll be introducing Caitlyn Jenner and the misconception media has in regards to the transgender community. Now, the show I'm going to be analyzing today is the reality TV show called I Am Kate. First aired July 26, 2015 on E! Entertainment. The genre falls into reality TV/documentary. The overview of the show is Caitlyn Jenner coming out to be transgender and the transition both physically, mentally, societally, and internally, and what ropes she had to overcome, and it opens up a lot of conversations about being transgender. Now, there was a lot of hype leading up to this show. She had an interview with Diane Sawyer, which attracted 16.9 million viewers. Her appearance on the cover of Vanity Fair drove 9 million visitors to their website, which was record-breaking. But the show wasn't as successful as everybody anticipated. The first episode had 2.7 million viewers according to Entertainment Weekly, but then Forbes reported that the third episode dwindled to 1.19 million viewers, and there's nothing to indicate that Sunday night's episode, the series, fifth episode fared any better, which was one of the last episodes. The show's poor rating, there's no really real answer. A lot of people said it was a one-hit wonder, a cry for attention, but that's debatable. So that is the reality TV show I'm going to be talking about today. And that's also her with former wife Kris Jenner in the show. Let's first talk about the characters. Before Caitlyn Jenner was Caitlyn Jenner, she was Bruce Jenner, who was an Olympic gold medal winning track star who set a world record in the decathlon at the 1976 Summer Olympics. He then came out to be a reality TV star in the show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. But then in 2015, Jenner revealed that she is transgender and is now known as Caitlyn Jenner, who is the main character of I Am Kate's show. She's new to the transgender community, but is also a pioneer for opening the conversation up. Other cast members are the Kardashian family. They're famous for their reality TV show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and they portray a family who is just coping with, the different phases of coping with a transgender family member. The last cast member of the show is model actress Candace Kane. She plays a big role in the show because she guides Kate through being transgender. Now, building off of that character, let's talk about how the show represents transgender through in a problematic way. Now, as you see in this picture, there's a group of transgender females talking in the show I Am Kate in their episode 2 of season 1. They talk about how transgenders financially struggle, which turns them into prostitutes, more or less, and they become over-sexualized. And let's talk about that a little more. Caitlyn Jenner says in the episode, I have a lot to learn. And that perfectly sums up the latest installment in the E! docuseries. Miss Jenner's transgender peers check her privilege several times in the episode, and it's uncomfortable, but it's very necessary, as E! reports. Now, the community as a whole struggles financially for one really big reason, and it's finding employment as a transgender male or female. They struggle with feeling taboo, and they're constantly alienized for being transgender, which, turns them to the route of prostitution. And that really opens up the conversation. Now let's boil this representation down to key elements: being over-sexualized and looking at as taboo. Now, when I say someone is over-sexualized, I mean they're sexually harassed. Many people assume that if you're transgender, you are a prostitute. That's not always the case. A lot of misunderstanding, and they're not taken seriously. So say that someone's on a date and they have to confess that they're transgender. They then think of them as a sexual object and not a person. They're also looked at as taboo. They're constantly harassed. They have a problem with unemployment, and they have a lot of safety problems. A big fact to talk about is nearly 80% of transgender people report experiencing harassment at school when they were young. Now, that is a big problem, and according to Chris Hayashi, executive director of the Transgender Law Center, says the majority of society does not understand who transgender people are in ways that lead to the violence and murder and the harassment that we're seeing. We should care because these are basic human rights, people. It's not okay that more than 80% of transgender people report experiencing harassment. This doesn't count how much they're bullied. And it's not okay that they're not getting jobs and they're not taken seriously, even if they do have the credentials, just because they're looked at as taboo. Which then takes us into the next conversation. Where do these stereotypes come from? What is their history? Well, it stems from the 1920s, and according to a famous author, Kay, in the journal Male Prostitution in the 20th Century Journal of Homosexuality, early fairies were homosexual men who dressed as women, often working in the same areas as female sex workers or in female-dominated brothels as an option for heterosexual clients. Kay noted that as the term homosexual gained public interest throughout the 1920s and 30s, fewer heterosexual clients would risk social stigma by engaging in sexual intercourse with a fairy for fear of being dubbed a homosexual. Consequently, the cross-dressing male became more severely marginalized in society. So men dressed as women to gain more clientele in sex work. This also comes from employer discrimination. They go through financial struggles because nobody wants to hire them, which makes them turn to desperation, which ultimately makes them turn to prostitution. Another fact, transgender people are 4 times more likely than the general population to report living in extreme poverty, making less than $10,000 per year, which is obviously not livable. The next conversation is there media that represents this people group in a positive / non-stereotypical way, and that's yes, and her name is Gigi Gorgeous. Gigi Gorgeous is a Canadian model, actress, and internet personnel. In June, Gigi teamed up with Miley Cyrus to put a spotlight on spectrum of gender identity with the hashtag InstaPride. She landed 2 major spreads following her initiative, one in Marie Claire, one in People magazine. Her videos reach over 130 million views on YouTube, and that was in 2015. So she is a pioneer in the transgender community, and she actually came out with an awesome documentary, which we'll talk about a little bit later in the slide. Going back to the I Am Kate show, in my opinion, what is the purpose of this? Do I think it's correct? Do I think it's stereotyped? Is it for humor? And my answer is the purpose of the show is to show the struggles of being transgender. And the effect is, did it really hit the everyday problems a transgender individual has to endure? I have to say no because, Caitlyn Jenner is very rich from winning all those awesome Olympic gold medals, and she's obviously financially safe. As we read in previous slides, that's not the case for most transgender individuals. The delivery was awesome. I love how they open up the conversation of transgender struggles and, Kate was very brave in showing her transition, but it could have dug a little deeper into the problem of the trans community, such as financial struggles and that awful stigma of being a prostitute. That's just how I feel in all. And then we're going to go into, what advice I have for, the media as a whole. You see this picture in the top left of Ben Affleck walking, the media chasing him like a baboon, and it's not healthy. Instead of talking about Ben Affleck, let's talk about people like Gigi Gorgeous, Candace Kane, Caitlyn Jenner, all those pioneers of transgender and the movements they're in. Let's not watch them walk to their car. It just doesn't make sense. But my first big bit of advice I want to give to the media is being transgender isn't funny. As you see in this picture, there's a guy in the late movie Beauty and the Beast where he jumps in a closet and jumps out as a girl, and it's almost comedic, and it's not funny because a lot of kids go through that gender dysmorphia that my brother, now sister, went through, and I just don't think that's right to make fun of. The second thing is open up the conversation in a positive light. Like Gigi Gorgeous, she recently came out with a movie called This Is Everything. It's a feature-length documentary, and it's actually about her transitioning from male to female, and we're talking the brutal surgeries, and it really opens up the conversation that you can be successful as a transgender individual, and I love the movie, and it was very successful. And the third bit of information, we're all human, let's act like it, whether we're employers, whether we're just friends, whether we're coworkers, instead of making it a bigger deal than it should be. Let's slow it down. Let's not make it a debatable topic. Let's not make it dramatic. At the end of the day, it comes down to human rights and the fact that all humans have the right to be treated with respect. And, to conclude with my call to action, I want to give a firm ending, in regards to this argument that transgender are over-sexualized, they're bullied, they're not safe all the time, and, they're having financial struggles. Let's support one another, let's get each other's back. Just because someone's trans doesn't mean we have to make assumptions that they are either prostitutes or not successful. These people on the right of the slide are very successful pioneers in that community, and I really like to look at that and the positivity of it. Don't make assumptions. If you feel like there's discrimination in the workplace, in school, in an overall public environment, speak up, protect that person. You don't know what struggles they went through to get to where they are, how much courage it took to put on that lipstick that day, or that pretty gold dress, or even earrings. You just don't know. So speak up and protect that person and open up the conversation. Give your honest opinion, but, still treat that person with respect. And at the end of the day, let's just stand together. And this is my references. I hope you enjoyed the slide. I definitely enjoyed getting all this information together.